Mike and Tom are registered with Steward Partners Global Advisors.
Common Sense Finance with Mike Wiginton and Tom Farrell of HL Wiginton Capital Management, an independent investment and financial planning firm in downtown Jasper. Mike is a chartered financial analyst charter holder, and Tom is a certified financial planner professional. They are here to discuss and give their thoughts on current financial and economic matters. Now, with Common Sense Finance, here are Mike and Tom.
Welcome back to another edition of Common Sense Finance. I'm Tom Farrell. This is Mike Wiginton. And if I had to put a title on this one, well, it looks like you did, so I'll just read it.
You can put
What's
whatever.
all the hate with probate?
It was a limerick. I started out writing a limerick, and I thought this might make a podcast.
Is that what you do in your spare time, is write limericks?
Mostly.
That makes sense.
Who doesn't like a good limerick? So look, you.
Yeah.
I can guarantee it. Guarantee it. So look, we've talked about estate planning and all different versions of it, financial planning. It's like we said in your office the other day, that I don't know what topic under the finance sun that we haven't covered. There are, and but you know, you get the basic things that we probably hit on some version of it. But there's always some new twist, and a lot of times what dictates, what motivates the subject matter for our podcast is what we're seeing on, well, social media or the news, on a regular basis. It's like something's going on with that. The algorithms are popping that subject matter up.
Yeah.
And so, and then things catch my eye because it's like, well, that's not true. Who's right? That is like misleading, And of course, they're written by journalists who don't have any sort of duties to anybody. They're not licensed people. They can say or write whatever they want to say. And, it's a difficult thing to constantly coming up with subject matter for an article. So, just whatever they write. So all of this, we deal with estate planning topics all the time. We have to do all of these disclosures and disclaimers for our compliance people. You hear us talk about that. We're not lawyers. We don't practice law. But these are things that we deal with, and it's in our wheelhouse and well within our right to deal and talk about these topics. But this doesn't mean that we're lawyers. As a matter of fact, we suggest you find a good one, if you can, and counsel with them, okay? So all these news articles and all over social media about why you should go toward a trust, and probate's this horrible thing, and probate's going to kill you and your family and your loved ones, and
You'll never get your stuff.
Probate ate New York City. It wasn't Godzilla. Probate is a monster. Okay, so what I did, because none of that ever made sense to me, and we've helped countless number of people. We constantly have an estate or 3 or 4 that we're working on. So I had an interview with a legal authority, a lawyer, a well-versed authority in the field. And I said, hey, let me just interview you. And I told them exactly what I want to talk about. And they
said yes?
They loved it. And so just three easy points. First of all, what's the true cost of probate? And the answer is, it depends, but I'm going to give you 2 different fields. Let's just look and say your situation is routine. So let's define routine. You don't have any giant problems with heirs where you'll have a lot of people bickering and wanting to fight over this or that.
Right.
They're going to give lawsuits over the estate. That's a totally different situation. Or if you've got a situation where the deceased and their estate, that they have creditors that are chasing them down. That's a whole other issue. If your situation's routine and straightforward, the cost of probate, and I'm not going to mention numbers, I'm going to let you talk, but it's not anything to be that concerned about. It's just not. And the legal fees are extremely reasonable. And I've talked to, over the years, more than one person about this, not this latest person. Was a reasonable fixed expense plus whatever filing cost
right.
at the courthouse, okay? So again, I'm trying to put a definition of sorts, kind of somewhat define routine, and say if your situation's routine, the cost of probate is not something that you should be fearing, all right? So let's move on past this. Second thing, what's a realistic time frame? Because it's going to take you the rest of your life to get through probate. That's not true. So you have to publish the death in the paper, in the local paper, and it's, I think, 6 months and 3 weeks. All right. But you know what they're telling me that really drives up the time frame? How long did it take the executor, whoever's in charge of settling up the deceased estate, how long did it take them to get their documents together and get to the attorney to start the process?
Right.
How motivated were they? How prepared were they? Okay. How many heirs are there involved? Because they're going to have to sign some documents for the lawyer. And so how quickly because if it's 6 months for you to, mosey around and, get from here to there, then, that's on you. That's not on probate. You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
so they're saying 6 months from the time of the
that's
initial filing.
That's how long probate period is.
Okay.
And so, and again, this is a number I've heard before. But what they said, 6 to 9 months is realistic. If you're really prepared and motivated, 6 to 9 months, and for sure it should be within a year. All right. So again, it's not this monster that's eating up everything. And so I just wanted to point that out. A third point, one that I see, is about privacy. Oh, everything, your entire life is going to be made public. I think that's clickbait. I think all of this is clickbait about probate and trust because, and I get so many people say, oh, I got to have a trust, got to have a trust. Well, why? Nothing about their situation leads me to think that, yeah, you need a trust. There are plenty of people that need them.
Have you ever gone up there and tried to get some information about somebody that's died?
I was hoping you would bring that up because we're going there in a hurry. So I asked them, what is the deal? I mean, where does the privacy issue come from? Are there really a lot of people just sitting around waiting for somebody to file? Filing the will is part of the probate process.
Right.
But here's the thing. If your situation is routine, and let's put a little bit more color, add a little bit more color to that. Let's say you're leaving everything to your spouse or you're leaving everything to your children. Well, you don't even have to list an inventory of assets. So even though the will is recorded at the probate, there's no detail there that's really exposed to the public. All right? So, and even in a situation where maybe your situation calls for having to inventory your assets, which really, one clear case of that is when somebody dies intestate without a will.
Right.
But who's sitting around the probate to say, I'm going to look through those records and see what's in that will? I mean, like you pointed out, most people try to avoid that place like the plague.
Yes.
And who knows how to navigate through the back halls, the dark recessed corners of the probate office. Okay? I mean, so I'm just saying that's clickbait. Those are all crazy, in my opinion, exaggerated titles for someone that's getting somebody to say, oh, maybe I should do what this author or this so-called YouTuber is suggesting that I do. Now, again, we've tried to define routine examples, and you very well may not have a routine circumstance, and so you need to get more counseling. The last thing I want to mention, and this comes up too, because as we said to lots of people, financial accounts, brokerage accounts, insurance policies, checking accounts, you can take care of that with correct titling. Transfer on death or pay on death type titles, joint tenants with right of survivorship. How are your accounts titled? All of that bypasses probate. Anything with a beneficiary on it, like an IRA or an insurance policy, bypasses probate. Okay?
By the way, even if, because we deal with this all the time, even if you have a named beneficiary on an IRA, it's not overnight, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it could take, a month to 2 months to get everything settled and get the assets to where you have access to them if you inherited those.
And back to one of the earlier points, and a lot of that depends on how motivated your client is and how quickly they get their documents signed and their information like death certificates and so forth brought in.
In our case, and a lot of times the beneficiary is maybe the executor and they got a lot going on, but you know, as soon as we get all their documentation, we can process and get the money distributed wherever it needs to go.
Quickly.
But typically, it's a couple months usually, right?
Well, it can be. It could be quicker, again, depending
yeah.
on how, but I don't think 2 months is an unrealistic time frame.
Right.
Okay? But the last thing I want to touch on this is real estate, because real estate can be tricky, all right? But here we go again. If your situation is fairly routine, and I'm going to hit on routine in this case being you don't have any trouble with heirs. Again, having trouble with heirs, the fighting and the bickering is going to cause you lots of problems, okay? If you don't have any trouble with heirs, then, okay, you're going to have the additional costs of titling, preparing a new deed to go to the new owners, the heirs. Mm-hmm. But those, preparing a deed, those costs are minimal.
Right.
Those costs are minimal. And what becomes more tricky and costly, is that if you start, which a lot of people do, I'm going to move my real estate, whether it's their house or whatever, over into my son's name before, before I die, and that way. Well, what if they die before you somehow?
Yeah.
Then that's going into their estate. It's theirs, not yours, and you've lost the ability to say, "Hey, I'm going to give that piece of real estate to so and so now."
Or what if they if you had a kid or whoever and they involved in a lawsuit
and they're
they can attach
exposed to
that.
lawsuits?
Yeah.
Adding names to deeds while you're still alive. If you're out there and you're thinking about, do I need a trust or do I need to probate this monster that ate New York City? You really need to think about these issues clearly. You don't need to watch YouTube about it, even though I think these things are posted on YouTube.
Except for
I
our stuff.
hope you're getting it directly from us, from our email to you from our office. But anyway, that's crazy. But you really need to think twice about that. That's tricky. There's tons of landmines out there. You need to see a good counselor, a good attorney that can help you navigate this. And hopefully you'll call us too, and we can throw our 2 cents worth in.
Is that it?
That's all I have for
All
this.
right. Thank you.
Controversy. You get high. Does your daddy cry? Controversy. 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 Do I believe God? Or do I believe me? Some people wanna die so they can be free. So life is just a game. We're all just the same. Controversy. Controversy. Controversy.